What's up, Power Painters? Welcome to Lesson 2 of Art Commission Specialists. Now, we're going to be talking about industries as well as styles and genres because this is going to help you narrow down your focus so that you can have a portfolio that's presentable in whatever industry or niche you choose and have a style that's cohesive with it. Now, your style will obviously evolve based on who you are and your own interests and likes, and you'll likely have to select an industry based on that as well, so it's a bit of a balancing act. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about some of the general terms of the industry as well as just giving you a little rundown of how each one may or may not work. Now, as a disclaimer, I've not worked in every single one of these industries, but I have noticed patterns and talked to artists who have, so I will be a little less informed as to those actual industries, but as far as the ones I have worked in, I will elaborate further. But either way, these are all available to artists, and it's really easy to find this kind of information anyway. So let's just get started. So as far as industries go, there's film. Now, film just means you're either doing it for indie films or, big motion pictures like the kind that are made over in California and Hollywood and what have you. So those particular movies are going to dictate greatly what kind of style you're going to use based on the movie. Now, generally, it's going to be more concept art oriented, meaning that you're going to have a lot of photo bashing, a lot of design stuff, a lot of painting over certain elements, figuring out characters, doing turnarounds, especially if you're previs in the studio. Now, if you're maybe a user interface designer, that's a little bit different, and that will go more along the post work, or maybe a little bit in the pre work, but a lot of the post work. So, film is the industry you want to get into if you're looking to do more realistic styles to implement photos into your work. Is kind of the industry standard now, unless you have really strong drawings and a lot of really strong design sense, then you're probably going to be doing a little bit of photo bashing. Then there's also knowing the concept art portion of it, which means you're going to be doing characters, objects, environments, and hopefully, choosing one or two of those if you're not comfortable with environments, then you better have awesome characters. Not comfortable with characters, then your environments better be rocking, and all of your stuff should look like it could go in a film. Now, a great way to look at that is just to go look at some Blu-ray screen grabs off like Google or something, and do a bunch of studies and see the elements that are implemented, see the cinematography, and start to kind of look at the patterns in each and every one of these industries, not just film, and pick out the one you want to work in. Now, you may have a really strong idea of the ones you want to go into already based on your style or your experience, and that's great too, but I just want to let you know that there are other options out there, and they each have their own kind of special characteristics and feelings, their own industry terms and budgets. So I just wanted to cover all of these to let you know that you can kind of do what you want here. The decision's really up to you. So that's kind of the rundown of film. Now, in film, there's obviously fantasy films, sci-fi. There's films that are going to be more, animation oriented, which will be more cartoony or maybe even more abstract. So the style can be a little more malleable based on what kind of films you want to work on, but just ensure that they are the kind of films that are produced frequently and they have budgets. Otherwise, you won't get work, which is the point of the course. So that's kind of how that would work. You may have to relocate and shake some hands with people who are actually on site making these films, tour the studio, bring in your portfolio, send emails to directors, or do fan art of particular series of movies, and maybe that gets the attention of a director on Twitter. It really is about making the connection and making sure that your stuff looks like the stuff you want to make. That's kind of a big theme that I will be hammering on throughout this course. You really have to have work that looks like the kind of work you want to get. It's not a very hard concept, but I and many artists fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I'm just good. I can go wherever I want as far as art goes. No, your art has to look relevant to the people you're trying to work for. Otherwise, they're just going to glance at it and say, oh, maybe that's nice, but it's not relevant to what I'm doing. That's going to leave their psyche and you're not going to get work. So just remember that as we move forward. Games. Now, games are a lot like film in that the industry is very condensed on the West Coast in terms of if you live in the US. I know there are studios also in Europe as well as Canada and Japan. All these places, all these nations and continents have various studios depending on where you live. But what I would do is make sure that you have a good degree of concept art, lots of strong design work. Once again, these are character turnarounds, environments that are look like that somebody could walk through it, and it's a game environment, and having your particular niche. So you think of companies you want to work for, like the video games you grew up playing. Hopefully, those companies are still alive and doing well. Just go to their website, see if they have any positions open in-house. If not, then you have to keep searching. It's just that simple. But wherever you want to work in the game industry, you're going to have to be doing a lot of concept art, a lot of realism, semi-realism, sometimes more cartoony if you're going into more of the mobile game. Niche, which is also a subdivision of the game thing, and that will make sure that you can find work wherever you're going as far as games go. Now, as far as these games go, I'm talking about like games that are on console, on Steam, things that are interactive and live feedback stuff. But there's other types of games that we're going to be getting into just in a second here. Next is advertising. Now, advertising work I find to be not as much fun as the other stuff typically, but a lot of it pays very, very well, meaning that advertising agencies have big budgets and they can afford to give you a lot of money to do the art that they need. Now, advertising stuff tends to be more graphic. It's a very simplified style, it's very expository. It's meant to get a point across or communicate something rather than say, hey, look how awesome this stuff is, look how cool this art is. It's more about the message and having a clean and readable thing going on. Now, that's not to say you're not going to find more detailed advertising work. You definitely can, especially if you're going more of the illustrative route rather than the graphic artist route, and that will permit you to access a little more of your unique flavor if you're an illustrator. But if you're more of a graphic artist, you're going to be doing a lot of simple graphics that are going to be layered, and just much like this Photoshop document is, and you're going to hand that off to an animator in a lot of these cases with advertising. I've done a fair degree of advertising work, and I can say that it's if it's not what you really love, I would be careful with it because you can burn out rather quickly and not enjoy your craft as much. So even though it pays really well, one of the potential downsides is that you may not be able to keep it up for very long unless you have a really hearty resolve as far as your craft goes. So I like to kind of spice my diverted, I mean, I'm sorry, spice up my income streams with some advertising work, but not necessarily rely on it wholeheartedly. Like I said, it pays very well, but more often than not, you're going to be doing either cartoonier or really graphic stuff, and some of it is targeted to kids too, so that's a little more advertising work for you. Next is graphic design. Now, graphic design is even more simple than advertising in many cases. It's really more about product packaging and a lot of emblems, insignias, icons, logos, stuff of that nature. So if you're not so much into characters or environments or equipment or the more fantastic element of things, then graphic design is a great one to go into. The market for graphic design is fairly oversaturated at this point in time. There are a lot of graphic designers out there. In order to stand out in that particular niche, I would definitely have some strong drawing and illustration skills, because that will really enable you to work more fluidly than your average graphic designer who doesn't have a strong grasp of anatomy or composition on the pictorial plane, but more so just puts shapes together and colors, which is fine as well. But the stronger your talent pool, the more of a chance you have of getting higher paying work, more fun work, all that good stuff. So graphic design, a lot of that runs in with the advertising stuff too. Finding graphic design work, I've not done a whole lot of it, but I know that as far as it goes, it's very easy to find graphic design work on websites like Indeed.com, Monster.com. I have a PDF included in this course, and I highly suggest you check it out. That's why I'm talking about it in this lesson, and I will refer back to it in lessons that follow. It's just a huge list of job posting sites and resources, and a lot of those are going to be full of graphic design jobs, so you should have no trouble applying for them at the very least. Next, we're going to talk about tabletop. Now, tabletop games are stuff like D&D or Mutant Chronicles or Warhammer. These are the stuff, or these are the things that kind of have, that interactive element, but it's not an electronic game per se. Now, a lot of the tabletop industry is also very saturated with industry veterans, people who are very, very good. It can be difficult to get in unless you email a postcard to an art director, or unless you go to a convention where you can talk to them directly and get portfolio feedback and build a relationship with them. That is definitely a strategy for getting into the tabletop gaming sect in this day and age. Now, just kind of hopping from tabletop to TCG, TCG stands for trading card game. I've done a lot of trading card game work because it's just a lot of people want to create their own games, and a lot of them don't know how to code, but they play trading card games. So many a funded Kickstarter has contacted me, and I've found them on various forums and contacted them, and I've gotten a lot of work this way. Trading card games, you're going to either have, a bevy of different styles or genres depending on each and every project. A lot of it, I can tell you, is fantasy or sci-fi based, more on the semi-realism, realism spectrum. I wouldn't count on a whole lot of it being in these lower four, mostly the ones that I mentioned. But TCG stuff pays okay. It's typically not amazing pay. I would try to get at least. You're going to be lucky if you get $75 an image in a lot of these lower, starting jobs, just because they don't have a big budget if they're just starting out. And if they are established, a lot of them don't pay great rates anyway. Like I know some companies pay as low as $100 an image, which may be great for where you're at, but as you progress, you're going to want to move beyond that because obviously an image takes a good amount of time. Otherwise, it's kind of a slapdash job. You don't like your art, and that can lead to a whole nother kind of a form of burnout, if you will. It's kind of a dreadful kind of art block that happens when you do a bunch of art that you're not fond of just for money that isn't great. So we want to avoid that. But TCG stuff can be great for building the portfolio initially if you have the time to spend making the image gorgeous, and then you can attach your name to it once it gets released. If it's one for one of the bigger publishers like Fantasy Flight Games or Wizards of the Coast, they have great trading card games. I know that World of Warcraft used to run one. I don't think they do anymore. But there's lots and lots of trading card games out there. You can literally go to your favorite comic store, or go to Target, and just pick up the trading cards and look on the back and find the company, and you can contact the company directly or the art director directly from that company. And that's a great strategy for tabletop and TCG. A lot of commissions I've done have been private commissions. These are just me finding people on forums who want their character drawn and have $300 or $400 or whatever. And these are very simple and tasty commissions as long as you find a good client. The worst thing about private clients is that a lot of them are inexperienced at ordering art, and they're very particular. So if somebody is very, very specific with their character and seems kind of, let's say, really beholden to that particular image, or they're very controlling, I would be careful entering a work relationship with them. You can tell by the tone of their post what they're writing when they're asking for an artist, or if you contact them directly and they have a laundry list of characteristics that you have to follow, then always be cautious with that, especially if the budget's not great. A lot of people will try and take advantage of artists and try to get you to work for free. Never work for free. Just simply don't do it. This is not the point of the courses to teach you how to work for free or to work for exposure. Just don't do it. It's bad. It will cost you your ambition and your drive. It makes you devalue your art right out of the gate, which is a hard habit. It's a hard habit to break. And you want to make sure that you're getting as much money as possible for every single job and still keeping the client if you possibly can. So there's sort of this balancing act to be obtained between charging as much as you possibly can, but not charging too much so that the client only orders from you once and leaves. So maybe the client is really comfortable, giving you $200 every month to bang out a concept for them, and they just do that month after month because they love their character, they love the thing they're working on. Some people plan on starting games later, and private commissions are how they're going to kind of build up a visual inventory before their game actually can begin greater production. So that's a great way, is just to offer ongoing services to private clients, whether it's for their characters, their environments, their ideas. They typically don't pay as well because they're non-commercial, and if somebody wants a commercial commission from you, even though they're just a single person, and that means they're going to make money off it, that's just what commercial is. If they're going to make money off of it, then I really suggest that you charge as much as you can without steering them away, unless you want them to be a one-off client. I've had people come to me and say, oh, so I would like this book cover done and I'm going to be selling it as a poster as well at a convention. And at first they quoted 185, and I'm like, if you're going to be selling it on your book cover and as a poster, the art that I create for you, I'm going to need at least about 3 to $400, and that was when I was starting out, and I got the money. So basically, just don't be afraid to haggle with them if they're doing commercial stuff, because if they're making money on the back end, they can afford to pay you more upfront. It's just that simple, and that works the same with almost every client you're going to approach. Some clients, especially the not big guys, like if you're not working for a big company, they're a lot more amenable with the rate. So don't forget to negotiate. I will discuss negotiation tactics with you in later lessons, but for now, just know that there's more wiggle room with private clients. Like I said, I've done a lot of these. So I've had people pay me $600 to draw a round table of like Disney characters or whatever knocked off, or not knocked off as in dead, but like not the actual Disney characters, if that makes sense, so you don't get sued or whatever. So just take into account that there's a lot of room at the bottom in the private kind of sector, but make sure that you get paid enough for what you're doing, because a lot of people don't have a lot of money and they want to give you $50 or $20 or whatever. Just it's seldom worth it. I would not encourage it whatsoever unless you know the person and you're so passionate about it that it's going to create a gorgeous portfolio piece for you. Also, one last thing before I move on from private commissions, I want you to remember to retain the rights to all your art. And when you're working for films, games, advertising, graphic design, tabletop, TCG, bigger companies, they're going to keep the rights to your art because it's work for hire, especially if they make you sign a contract, meaning that you don't own the rights to the image after you're done. You can use it for portfolio purposes in a lot of cases, but you're not going to be able to sell prints or, create other subdivisions from that work because they own it. Whereas in a private work, there's so much more wiggle room. You're basically getting paid to create your art, but it's just their prompt. So you can go ahead and take some of the ideas and recycle them or submit them to contests or use them in your portfolio, and they can't tell you anything otherwise because you still reserve all the rights as the artist. And also as just a disclaimer really quickly, I am not a lawyer. If you want to seek legal advice, then I highly suggest you do that. Any advice that I do give you is for educational purposes only. 100%. So if you want to use this, then that is completely up to you. But all I'm saying is that I claim no expertise as far as legalities go. I claim no expertise as far as any type of law oriented stuff goes. I'm just saying to, as a general tip, reserve the rights to your art as much as possible. Okay? Cool. Now, next to government city. I have yet to do a job for the government or the city that I live in. I know that the way to do it is probably to apply for grants, as well as to see if you can contact officials of City Hall. Like, it's just like talking to an art director at a particular company. There are project managers that work on the aesthetics of the city that you live in. And some of them might want large scale murals on buildings. They might want you to create really graphic. It's mostly going to be mural work from what I've seen. Some of it can be graphic design work, some of it can be more advertising. You might do a flyer or something, but the government typically has money to pay you, and it's a great connection just because it's the city itself. That's kind of really cool to add to your resume. So I really suggest looking into your local city, your local works, wherever the city hall is or wherever people are you can contact. If you call them, government officials are usually pretty good, or I'm sorry, government workers are usually pretty good at directing you to the right place or wherever you would need to be, say if you're very interested in working for them. Again, the style and genre in that one can vary greatly. So if you're an illustrator, it's probably best to contact the city, especially if you're comfortable working in traditional media, because then you can probably paint some really nice big murals, and those pay kind of lovely. Next, there are local businesses, which is similar to contacting the city or the government. Now, the local businesses are, you would basically just walk in or call and say, do you have any sort of use for art? Or you see one of their billboards or their signs and you notice it could be much better. You're going to need a little bit of salesmanship for a local business. Sometimes one of your friends or your family members will have a business and they will hire you to work on that. Remember to get paid, even if they're friends or family. Get paid a good amount. Don't don't work for free. Again, guys, going to hammer that point home. Just do not devalue your art. That will be a hard habit to break once again. And even if you have, that's okay. That's perfectly all right. We've all been there. Hopefully, you can start working your way out of it with this course. But remember just to stand firm and know that you have value as an artist. You've spent time cultivating your skills and your craft. Just because you like to do it does not mean that people can take advantage of that. So if they say, "Hey, I want this cool character so I can put him on a poster in my office and it's going to represent my business." That's, if they have the budget for it, just say that's going to be $500 or that's going to be $600, and they say, well, that's crazy, and go, no, you're going to have like 30 sketches of this character. We're going to revise it based on your needs. You're not going to pay me the other half until you're happy with it in the final, and I only take this much up front, and you retain all the rights to it. We can draw up a contract. You're also selling the rights to whatever you create in a business situation. So really factor all of this in. And as a freelancer, you're going to be paying for your own insurance and all these other bills that a company, if you were working in-house, is going to be paying for you. So really take into consideration just how much money you have to make as an artist. And I don't want to scare you with that because it's not really a scary thing. It's just charge more. Just charge more because you have a lot of overhead to take care of. You're essentially an artist, but you're also a business. So treat yourself as such. A business would go out of its wheelhouse. It would lose everything if it didn't charge money for its services or its products. So treat yourself like a business that wants to stay in business and wants to grow. All right, cool. Spiel over. Next, we're going to talk about galleries. Now, there are several types of galleries. There are fine art galleries. There are modern or a little more digital oriented art galleries. You can find them around your town by going into Google. Google will show you pretty much all of them. Just go in and just inquire. I definitely would walk into a gallery or just call them up on the phone or shoot them an email. It's basically a place for art. Let them know that you're interested in, doing the style that they want or being in a show, and show them some of your stuff. And, sometimes you can sell your art at galleries. They may have connections to other people who will want to work with you. Galleries are an amazing way to get exposure if you already have the art created, or to sell pieces, potentially if you're going to be in a gallery show. So really, it's a great way just to expand your artistic horizons. Personally, I haven't done enough traditional work, I feel, to be in a gallery yet. But if you have a strong traditional game as far as your art goes, then I would really consider talking to some galleries. And even if you don't, a lot of them do accept large scale digital prints on canvas. So if your traditional art game isn't as strong, maybe, then still just see what connections you can make, because really you're just going to be talking art with these people, and that's what brings us all together, and we want to help each other. So really, don't, even if that first door you walk through isn't going to get you paid or get you a job, remember that as you advance and move forward, it still is going to be an invaluable connection. A lot of this is just building connections with people, which is something I'm going to hammer home a lot as well. So building connections, never working for free, look out for bad clients, stuff like that. Okay, so whizzing on through here. Next can be books. Now, books will have either interior illustrations or they will have cover illustrations. And there's lots of publishers out there. You can contact the publishers directly of your favorite books, and then you can start designing book covers for them. There's a lot of people on Amazon who need book covers. Just really, this is an exposure type game. Like I said, I'll show you how to gather leads later. For now, I'm trying to give you an idea of the industry and the styles or genres that you would want for that particular industry. So as far as books go, if you're a little more niche as an illustrator, you may have a strong style that can translate well into a couple different types of titles as far as books go. Some of them might be more cartoony, some are really abstract book covers. There's lots of horror, lots of fantasy. Book covers are a huge market, huge market. A lot of them pay anywhere from 150 bucks all the way up into the thousands. So really get in touch with publishers, get in touch with authors that are starting that have a bit of a budget, and you will likely be able to make some connections when you show them your work. Next, we have comics. Now, comics are a lot like books. I know that the industry is not as well paying as many would like. However, I know a lot of people, including myself, are huge fans of comics and the comics industry, so we'd like to talk about it anyway. Comics are probably going to have either an anime manga aesthetic or obviously a comic or very Western style. A lot of it's going to be semi-realism. Some of it might be a little graphic. Some of it might be even more realistic. But all of these styles and genres, aside from abstract, and maybe a little bit of fine art, is going to be applicable for comics, depending on where you want to work. There's the big guys. There's DC. There's Marvel. There's some smaller comics. There's Dark Horse. There's Vertigo. All these places have the potential to get you in touch with an art director and start doing covers for the comics or even interiors if that's what you want. Just make sure that your style fits with at least some of their titles, otherwise, they're probably not going to consider you. Once again, style and genre, you have to pick a cohesive way of doing your art. Otherwise, your people aren't going to be able to count on you as far as creating the product that is your art or creating the service that is your art. We'll talk about that in the next video, how you can nail down a style or two or three. I'd say three is probably good for now. Don't go beyond that, or you're going to have a harder time creating the work, and just you'll spread yourself too thin. I recommend 1 to 2 in the beginning anyway, but 3 is if you really want to push it and you feel very diverse, then you can rock 3. Anyway, so that's kind of comics in a nutshell. Finally, we have agencies. Now, agencies are great because they will find you the work. They have a log of clients at their disposal, and you can just talk to these people at agencies that represent artists, and you can be an artist that's represented by an agency. Now, you can just type that into Google and like 30, 40, 50 will pop up. Just contact each and every one of them. Once again, you're just going to be scraping leads, which just means grabbing the email address and putting it into a document for later. And this is a lot of footwork in the beginning, but that's okay because once you have your list, you have your list. And your list is worth gold to you as long as you're going to be using your style and your charisma to talk to these people and make these connections. And just permit yourself to walk through the doors and get connected to the people they know. And it's just like this really easy network of introducing yourself, just being a fan of what they do, and just being a person about it. Just go in and talk to them or talk to them over the phone and establish a dialogue. Just build rapport, and people will be willing to help you. Just always be down to provide value, offer services, and help in any way you can, and it will be returned in kind in most cases. And if somebody doesn't, then they're not worth your time anyway. So that about wraps it up for the industries and the styles and the genres. Really, whatever style you work in, just try to find the industry that parallels it. So if you're a really big sci-fi guy, you can probably rock the tabletop and trading card game. You can rock the game industry, etc. Anyway, there are always ways to make money with your art, no matter what kind of style you have, I feel, and no matter what industry you want to get into. It's just a matter of targeting both of those things so that you have a greater chance of success when you move forward. All right, so that's this video regarding the industry and the style and picking those two and kind of parsing and balancing them. Next, we're going to be talking about how to build your portfolio so that you can actually start marketing. So let's go into some of the portfolio building stuff.